What's up, everybody? You are listening to episode 3 of the PS Files, a podcast that investigates the biggest stories shaping PlayStation and gaming as a whole. Each week, we open a new case file to examine the games, news, and moves surrounding PlayStation and what it could all signal for you. I'm your host, Marco. Joining me is my good friend and co-host, Pablo, and this week we're teaming up to open our biggest case file yet, as we examine the biggest games still coming to PlayStation in 2026 and giving you our MetaCritic predictions. And Pablo, look, man, I got to say, this might just be one of the most stacked years we've had in quite some time.
Yeah. Some highly anticipated games finally coming out this year, hopefully, right? And some new titles from new studios getting some attention, too. So it's going to be a well-rounded year. So I'm excited to see how it all shapes out.
Yeah, same here. Truly, all bases are going to be covered. But as far as how good these games will be, but before we crack open this case file, we just want to say thank you for tuning in. We are a new PlayStation podcast, so every listen, every follow, and every review really does help us grow and reach more PlayStation fans like yourself. So if you like what we're doing here, please follow us on your favorite podcast app to keep up with every case file we put out. We also just passed 600 followers on Threads, and we'd love to have you join us to hit our 700 goal at the PS Files as well. But in the meantime, pull up a chair, grab a drink, join us at the table as we open up this week's case file to examine the biggest games still coming to PlayStation this year and where they might land on MetaCritic or OpenCritic if you're so inclined. Now, the way we're going to do that is we have, I think, about 25 or 26 games on our list. We are going to basically go through alphabetical order and start with the game. We're each going to give you our predictions and then have a conversation about why we kind of landed the way we did. Now, it's important to note that the predictions that we're giving the people, Pablo, are not what we want these games to get. It's more so what we think the critical belief will be about these games. So we're kind of looking at it from that angle more than personal preference. And we're going to actually get started now with our first game. That's 007 First Light. So, Pablo, go ahead and give me your score, and I'll give you mine, and we'll talk about it.
I have it at 83.
83. Okay. Putting these on our little docket in real time here. I've got 79. As mine.
Okay.
So we're not worlds apart here. I guess for me, dude, it was more about, I'm not super convinced from what I've seen of the game that it's not this Hitman thing. You know what I mean? Like, that's what kind of hung me up a little bit, because it's definitely doing some 007 things, and maybe you agree, but it just feels like there's a little too much of the Hitman DNA in there, and it still just doesn't quite feel like it's its own thing right now, and that's what held me back.
That's why I gave it 83, because it is IO Interactive and it is more Hitman-like. Well, at the very least, it's from the studio that brought you Hitman. So if they can marry the DNA of Hitman into a more 007 type of experience, I think that they got a pretty good chance of hitting that 83. I have questions, you know, about the performance that we saw in the trailers. Man. Lenny Kravitz.
I forgot about that. The frame rate was bad. Lenny Kravitz was laughable to me. There's a lot of weirdness to the way the game has been sort of presented to us. Maybe the PS5 Pro version can be the real winner of the bunch there if it can smooth out frame rate issues and up the fidelity a bit, but we shall see. But yeah, not too far apart there. So let's go ahead and move on. Let's go to the next one here. We have a game called Beast of Reincarnation. This is the game from Game Freak, the makers of Pokemon. This was featured more prominently on Xbox's showcases, predominantly their recent Direct.
Surprisingly so.
Yeah, which is definitely a weird partnership, to be honest, but a cool one. I'm glad to see it. Definitely a departure from Pokemon, though. And so this was one of the ones that I was wrestling with for a while here. So let me hear your score, and I'll give you mine, then we'll talk about it.
I got 86, man.
Oh, wow. You're going high. Okay.
Oh, yeah.
My good brother, I got 73. I feel like they're a little late to this. And what I mean is, and I don't mean to kind of stereotype based on anything specific. It's just that we've seen the style of a game like this before, this Japanese influenced or Asian influenced type of games that are a little bit Souls-like, but a little not, and kind of, towing that line a little bit. I feel like we've done that a lot lately. And I do think that there's a bit of a fatigue, at least I think in some reviewers' minds, of seeing a lot of these types of games pop up out of the woodwork. And I just, when I've watched this game, I thought, okay, this looks decent. I'm just not seeing anything that's making it really jump off the screen at me, though. That's where I was coming from. But you got this pretty high, man.
At least from
damn.
Yeah, at least from what I've seen and read on the game, it does have some layers of complexity to its combat. It reminds me, not in the same sense in terms of one for one within the genre, like Wu-Chang Fallen Feathers for me last year, where it was a game that I was very not high at all on, and then it came out and it really hit all those notes really well. I think this game can do the same thing. One thing about Game Freak, Marco, is when it comes to gameplay and when it comes to kind of world building, they're pretty good at that. It's just when it comes to how the game looks and how it runs, that's always been a problem.
Yeah.
But it looks like this is Game Freak kind of finally being able, releasing themselves from the shackles of Pokemon and Nintendo, and kind of doing something that is also taking advantage of graphical output and performance. We'll see where that lands ultimately, but I think that when I look at this as a whole, it has all the ingredients to be something kind of unique, and I think that if it hits, I think that people will be talking about this game as one of the surprises of the year for sure.
I really hope you're right. I mean, I think this game does have some potential. It's just one of those games where, and this is where it was a fight to kind of take myself out of the equation. It's another Unreal Engine 5 game. Unreal Engine 5 games all kind of have that same look to me for some reason. And I was just like, man, we're kind of doing that. And I think you couldn't look at this game and go, oh, that's a Game Freak game. I think that works for it and against it, and I think in some ways where it defies what they normally do. But also, it's like, are you stepping out of your pocket here?
Yeah.
Are you out of your lane a little bit too much with this?
I think that works for them because in a lot of ways, when people say Game Freak, all they think about is Pokemon.
Yeah.
And so being so far removed from that aesthetic, I think works well for them in terms of them trying to branch out to something other than,
I hope it works out for them. I really do, because I do think they are.
I hope so too.
They are a talented team. And maybe they're tired of Pokemon and they're ready to kind of stretch their legs a little bit and branch out, and I hope this is the game that helps them do that. It becomes a really successful franchise, but I'm just not seeing it. But we'll have to hold on and wait till reviews come out and find out for sure. But moving right along, man, let's get to the next game on our list, a game that was actually shown at the most recent Sony State of Play, which is part of Konami's onslaught of games that they're working on.
Yeah.
And this one was one of the big surprises. It is Castlevania Belmont's Curse. A very hotly anticipated return for the franchise, man. And tell me what you got.
I gave it an 88.
Okay.
Yeah.
You got an 88. I'm at an 84. I think this game is going to ultimately be, and I think looking at what we've got here, I think we both agree it's going to be a pretty damn good game.
Yeah.
I just think for me, it's your first game back in a long time. It is now Hollow Knight's world, and everyone's living in it in terms of Metroidvanias. What are you going to deliver that speaks to the traditions of the franchise, but also pushes it forward, if that makes sense, so that it feels like it belongs in the modern era and not just this nostalgia act, if that makes sense.
Yeah,
and I think there might be a little bit of a divide critically on how traditional versus how modern it is. And I think that's going to maybe divide some people, but I don't think either side is going to outright say it's a bad game. So that's why I went 84 personally on this one. Yeah,
I'm kind of there with you. For me, I look at it like Castlevania fans and people who are going to be reviewing the game could be, those hardcore Castlevania fans themselves too. So they could be extremely critical here. But I don't know. There's something about this game in terms of how everyone reacted and how it looks. I think that it's going to be a game that's going to tend to review better on the higher side of things when it comes to people being critical of it.
Yeah. I like the world, though. I like the music. Presentation looks cool. It's all there.
Yeah.
But curious about everything else,
Yeah,
though.
the game has to be really, really not bad, but different enough to where even the Castlevania fans are out on it. So I don't think that's something a mistake that they'll make.
Yeah, we'll see. I know that some real traditional Castlevania fans are upset that it's not pixel art. I don't know. I don't know where I stand with that one, because I think you have to kind of give franchises the opportunity to evolve, or else they're just going to be the remember the times kind of game. And I just don't know if that's what Castlevania needs to kind of make its dent in this time. And also with the Netflix series being what it is, I think you could really risk kind of pushing that newer audience away by giving them this ultra old school thing.
I don't understand fandoms. Like, you really weren't getting any love with Castlevania, not recently.
No.
So the fact that, it was relegated to DLCs for different games, the fact that you're getting a game here, come on, let's look at what we have and let's assess that. Let's not try to make something and make something that it's not. This game is not pixel art, so let's not die on that hill.
Yeah.
I think that's such a ridiculous kind of take.
Yeah. Let's hope that everyone behaves with those reviews. I don't want to see anybody go crazy with it's not my Castlevania. That kind of thing is going to really suck if that's the case. But we shall see, man. Let's move on to the next game, though. This one's more of an indie darling that I think we both have a special place in our hearts for. Not a franchise that a lot of people talk about, but I think it's good to give it a little bit of shine here at the PS Files. And that's Coffee Talk Tokyo. This would be the third game in the series. And as the third game in the series, I have a lot of questions about what it's going to do differently, but it's always been this very chill, serve people some coffee, listen to them talk about their lives kind of game, and that fits a really good space for me at times as just wanting to have a good palate cleanser kind of game. So I think on a personal level, I'm really excited for it. Critically, and this is where we get to our predictions, I'm going to give it a 76. What are you going to give it?
I'm at 81.
76?
Traditionally speaking, for whatever reason, these games don't get a lot of love critically. I think they rated the 70s and low 80s. So I think based on, the game probably not doing too much different other than the location and new characters, I think people who review the game are going to be like, it's doing a lot of the same things. It's great, but it's still just
it's more coffee talk,
repetitious kind of So that's why I'm 81. I would love to go higher here, but honestly, dude, I think this is where it's going to land at 81.
Yeah, but let's move on to the next one. This is a more high-profile game, I think, and that is Control Resonant. So, big-time sequel from Remedy. They're definitely looking to kind of get back on their feet after the whole FBC Firebreak debacle. And they're going back to the roots here with, just getting back into the single-player space again. But this is definitely a big departure from the first Control. This is definitely into the third-person action slasher kind of genre, a la Devil May Cry, Bayonetta. But, of course, with the Remedy twist, which is always interesting and fascinating. So let's give our scores here, man. I've got 80 for this. What do you got?
80?
I got 80.
Oh, my God. We're really far apart here. I'm at 87.
87.
80?
Yeah, man. I got 80.
Why do you hate this game?
Let me talk to you. Let me talk to you about this, because I think it's going to be an 87 in my heart. My concern is every time I've seen gameplay, there's something about the combat that feels a little slow, and I'm also a little concerned that it might be a little janky for Remedy to do something like this. This isn't really their style. They're more of like, you get in a gun, you're going to shoot some things. This is not that, and so I'm really concerned that we're going to feel a little bit of that first-timers jank with this game. Although the ideas are cool, the world is cool, I'm sure the story is going to be awesome. I think the gameplay might be a little middling to some people critically, and that's why I'm going to go down to 80 on this one. That's kind of my rationale.
Yeah, I mean, I think if this game comes out at 80, I think that people either lost the plot or the game really is that bad in terms of like, not bad, but
underwhelming.
There's a Control as well. However, I would say there was a level of jank for Control as well.
They all do. Yeah, they all Remedy games do. But I'm a little more concerned about this one because it's not an outright shooter anymore. Control was. Alan Wake was to an extent. This is definitely different, and I can almost see it when I'm watching the gameplay. Like, oh, that looks a little sluggish. Yeah. So it's more that kind of thing that I'm concerned about.
I guess I'm more on the line that I think Remedy's going to deliver here. I think that even though, like you said, there might be some jank, I think that people are going to appreciate it and praise it for it, doing something completely different from its predecessor, which it didn't have to do. And I guess that question will be answered later on. Why did they do this? And did they do the right thing, right? So we'll see. But I think that Remedy's just too good at what they do, unless it's FBC Firebreak. But other than that, flawless.
Yeah, and that wasn't part of my thought process, like the FBC Firebreak thing. It was more about just stepping outside of their norm and whether or not they have the chops to really pull it off. But I'm confident in them that it's going to be a good game no matter what. Just how good is more of the question for me. So that's why I got it at 80 to be safe. Let's go to the next game, a game that is going to be getting reviews pretty soon, and that is Crimson Desert. Another tough one for me. Really hard game.
Me too.
Really hard game to pin down, man, because there's a lot of people hyped about it. It's so expansive. It's got so many things going on. So many systems, so many mechanics, so much stuff you can do. It's definitely kind of kitchen sink the game in terms of open world,
absolutely
action adventure games. It's a lot. And because it's a lot, I want to talk about what we think it's going to get. So I'm going to tell you mine. I've got 82.
I got 79.
You got 79.
Yeah.
That's a very timid 79, though. You got a very timid, 79.
Even at 79, I think I'm being gracious.
Oh, wow. Okay, so you're concerned it's going to be a bomb.
Yeah, well, the thing is this. It's that, like you said, kitchen sink type stuff, and the initial kind of conversation behind the game already is the combat, that it's pretty complex, right? That it takes a lot to get used to, and that there's the controls that are pretty complicated, and that they're not very intuitive.
Right.
On top of that, you add to the whole fact that, you know, the game is about exploring, and you're constantly out in this world doing what you got to do. Is that going to be interesting enough? The game looks great. I'm sure it has a lot of cool mechanics, a lot of cool things that you can do, a lot of side quests and exploration opportunities. But is it going to actually hit on those things? And I think there's too many factors out there for this game to hit any of those things on a level that people are going to appreciate it. So that's why it's a timid 79, because I think people are pretty hyped about the potential of the game, and can they get rid of that mindset behind the potential in terms of what it actually is. So that's why it's 79. But in my heart, it's a 74, I think.
Okay.
I hope it's really good. I hope it's like as good as people think it is.
Yeah. Man, it reminds me of a game called Biomutant.
Yep. Oh, yeah. I was so hyped for that game.
Yeah, small team. I don't know how big this team is, but Biomutant was a small team that tried to make about 5 games in one. It was Breath of the Wild. Yep. It was an action game. It was this. It was that. It had all these systems.
Souls-like.
Yeah, and it really failed at everything. And so I would hate for this to be another one of those jack of all trades, master of none things. But the next game on our list here, man, is one that I think absolutely seems to have an identity, and that is Fable. For all intents and purposes, people seem very excited about it. It had a very positive reaction when it was shown in more detail at the recent Xbox Developer Direct. But it's coming out in a few months, which is honestly kind of hard to believe. It really is. But we're close, and because we're close, it's time to put some predictions out there, man. So let's give these scores out. What do you think it's going to get? And I'll tag in with mine.
89.
89. All right. I'm not too far away from you, man. I got 87. I'm feeling good about this one, though. I feel good about it. I think the only thing that keeps me from going into like the 90s is more so the combat. That was probably the one thing I was like, I don't know if this is really going to be exciting. It definitely seemed very Fable-ish, but Fable in, the 2010s was one thing. This is something that needs to be a little bit more meaty and more in depth, and I didn't really get a sense of that depth when I watched the game. So I think that's my big hang up. But as far as the world, the presentation, the art style, the fidelity, the immersion, I think it's all there. I'm really happy with what I saw, to be honest. And I think critics will be too.
I agree with you 100%. I just don't think that the combat needs to be anything complicated or anything that requires too much of the player. It does, however, need to be decent. It needs to be good. It needs to feel weighty. So I believe that they'll be able to do that. So I think that's why I'm at 89. I think one of the reasons why I don't go any higher into the 90s, I don't know. I feel like there's going to be some kind of, pushback on probably narrative or certain aspects of Fable that is missing from the formula, So I think it'll get into those little details, and I think it'll hurt it eventually. But I feel good about 89.
Let's move on, though. Let's stick with Xbox for a little bit here, because the next couple of games are all Xbox, ironically. Let's get to it. Let's talk Forza Horizon 6. What's your score here?
92.
92. I got 88. I'm going 88. Ooh. I'm going a little bit lower because I think that now that Forza Horizon has more exposure and people are still fresh with Forza Horizon 5 on PlayStation, I think 6 is maybe going to reveal that there isn't much in terms of evolution. That's not to say they have no changes or improvements. They do. But I just don't see those as being as meaningful to really move the needle for the franchise. And so I think that maybe some of that sameness could knock it down a couple of pegs to an 88. But I'm really reaching there, and I feel more confident, honestly, in your prediction than mine, because it is just that good of a franchise. Let's move on. Let's talk about the next game from Xbox, and that is Gears of War E-Day. Given that this could, more than likely, unless plans change at Xbox, which can happen, but it may come to PlayStation, assuming that it does, and we got to talk about it, what do you think it's going to end up getting review-wise, man?
I'm going to go 84.
You got 84 and I got 85. I think it's going to be a really good game. Yeah. I do. I think it's going to be really good. I think that it might not be the longest game in the world or as in-depth as Gears 5 tried to be in terms of ambition, going more semi-open world. It might be more of the traditional style, but I think that is going to work for a lot of traditional fans of the franchise who just kind of want to go back to the roots, go back to the origin, go back to what made this franchise so meaningful all those years ago. And I think it's going to hit those notes really, really well. I am positive the Coalition is going to make sure this game is absolutely drop dead gorgeous. I think my only trepidation is, and I hate saying it because I like the lore of Gears of War, I like the story overall, but sometimes the storytelling can be a little bit on the generic side at times. I know the Dom and Marcus relationship is the real anchor for this, and I'm curious to see how that bond develops over the course of this game, but I think that's the hang up for me, is how well written is this thing going to be, and is it going to be worth going back to this era?
Yeah, I think the Coalition has gotten better with their writing. I think when you look at the original trilogy and you look at 4 and 5, I think that 4 and 5 are better written games in terms of dialogue.
I would agree.
And how the narrative is given. So I'm hoping that they translate that over to E-Day and give Marcus and Dom some more dialogue that sounds like two humans talking.
I think what my hang up is, though, dude, it's really like, I think what's still on my mind is they skipped Gear 6 to do this. And so they kind of, I feel like they've abandoned that story arc completely. So my concern is that, are they in their own heads about their own writing at this point? Are they so like, oh man, we went in a direction that we don't even know how to complete, that let's just go back to the old school? You know, like that's where I'm more worried about, because you're right. I think 4 and 5 definitely had a more prominent story. It was more front and center. And I really enjoyed that as a story-driven gamer. But my issue is they just kind of dropped us off. And now it's like, well, put a pin in that for however long, maybe forever, and come back to the origin story. And I'm excited for that, because it's another flavor of Gears of War that I'm excited to learn more about. But man, does it just speak to their writing and maybe their lack of confidence in what they're doing. And that's where I'm a little hung up. But I could be wrong. I hope I am.
We'll see.
Yeah.
We'll see.
All right. Now up next, Grand Theft Auto 6. The most anticipated video game in the history of video games. And that's not even an exaggeration. And with this one, Pablo, easily, hands down, hardest one to predict for me, personally. And I guess it's because reviewers have a way of showing their ass sometimes. And boy, would it be nice to get some clicks if you can come in hot with a really controversial review score for the most anticipated video game of all time. So this one was hard. I am going with an 89.
I'm going 96, brother.
All right. So we are far apart here. Okay. I love this.
I mean, these people would have to leverage their reputation on clicks if they're going to give Grand Theft Auto 6 a middling review just to be out there. And I'm not saying that they're not above that, because they could.
Yeah.
But I think for the most part, when it's a highly anticipated game like the Breath of the Wild and the Tears of the Kingdoms, and I think that people tend to not get too crazy, because the backlash might be something they can't come back from. So
I would hope it will be, to warrant the hype, to warrant the production cost, to warrant the waiting time. And I think I'm going to love it. I think I'm going to be obsessed with it. I love Grand Theft Auto. I don't care what anybody says. I think it's a fantastic franchise. Where I see this game in terms of critical consensus is it's almost going to be treated like the LeBron James of video games, right? It's got all the accolades. It's doing everything you'd want it to do. And for some reason, people are still like, yeah, but it ain't Kobe. Yeah, but it ain't MJ.
Right.
And I feel like that's going to be the case with some reviews. It's like you're going to be comparing it to games that were probably not as ambitious in scope and therefore a tighter and more streamlined and better experience from that standpoint. But when you look at everything that GTA 6 is going to do and just what it's going to have to offer in so many different areas, I think it's going to be misrepresented because of that. And I think that's why I think some reviewers are going to hold it against the game, where it's like, oh, it's all looks, it's all, satire and no substance, or it's all this and no that. And I do feel people are going to be reductive. And I don't think it's going to be fair. But again, I just feel like reviews are going to have their show their ass moment with this game. So that's why I'm bumping it down. Something tells me, man, it's just going to be one of those ones with more attention comes more scrutiny. And people are going to scrutinize. They're going to sweat every little thing. But speaking of scrutiny, the next game that we're going to be talking about, the franchise itself has gone through a lot of scrutiny of its own, and that is Halo, because Halo is coming back with Halo Campaign Evolved from formerly known as 343 Industries, now known as Halo Studios. And they're back with what is, I think, the second remake of the original Halo. And it's got people talking. It's got people talking about maybe a new fresh start for Halo. It's got people saying same studio, same problems, that kind of thing. So there's a lot of differing opinions about this, but it's time to kind of get into prediction territory with you, man. What are you giving this thing? And I'll tell you what I'm giving it.
I'm at 82 with it.
82. We have our first tie. So someone's going to have to buckle. I'll buckle and go down to 81 because that's where I had it for a while. So we're not too far apart now. But yeah, I thought low 80s made a lot of sense. Yeah, I'm curious to know what your rationale was, though. What brought you to that level?
A lot of people think that Halo Combat Evolved is unassailable. Like, it is like a perfect game. I disagree.
I do too.
I think that it is a special game. It is a game that has a lot of meaning and did a lot for the industry. However, Campaign Evolved seems to be something that, like you said, it is introducing itself to new players, to a new ecosystem.
Yeah.
And I think that this is a necessary thing to kind of pull off here. But I think it's going to be good. I think it's going to be great. But in terms of how everything is going to shake out, I think that 82 is probably where it's going to land in terms of how everybody's going to kind of nitpick the shit out of this to hell. And it's not going to have multiplayer. So somehow that's going to end up, shitting on it as well. That
last part right there is where I was going with my rationale. I think the lack of multiplayer is going to piss some people off. And I also think what they did show when they revealed it, again, another UE5 game, so frame rate was all over the place. It was a little hard to feel super confident, and some people that did play the game also noted it felt very rough in many ways. So if they come out of the gate with a really middling remake of one of the most important games in not only Xbox's portfolio but all of gaming, that's going to be really sad. And I refuse to believe they're going to let it get that bad. So I think me going into the low 80s feels safest because it's just, I can't reconcile the possibility of it being an outright terrible remake. There's no way they can let it be that bad.
No, yeah.
So yeah, but I hope it's higher than this. I really do. But yeah, I don't have any problem with it modernizing anything. I think Halo Combat Evolved was a wonderful game for its time, but kind of aged like milk in certain respects, man.
Yeah,
I'd love to re-experience that game again, but just kind of with a fresh coat of paint and a couple of modern sensibilities. So I'm down for it. But next game on our list here, that is Kena. I don't know how to say it. I think it's Kena.
Yeah, Kena.
Or Kena. Yeah. Or Kennel. Scars of Cosmora is the next game on our list. I'm going to go 81 here. What are you thinking?
Yeah, I got it at 83.
83? Okay. Yeah, I don't know if I have a lot of takes on this game, honestly. I think people are going to like... I think people are going to like that it's an advancement over the first game and more ambitious, but it's pretty to look at, for sure.
Yeah.
I think that'll carry it decently, yeah.
The first game was a little janky, but it looked really nice. The art style looked nice, and this is a clear improvement on that. So I think that people are going to love that, yeah.
Yeah, same here. So 81 on my end, 83 on yours. Let's move on to the next game on our list then. A new Life is Strange is coming out. And this one is called Life is Strange Reunion. This franchise is kind of on a weird trajectory, you know?
Just stop making these games.
Hot damn. That's hilarious. Because I want to say that too, like, put this franchise on ice for a little bit, but I wanted to say it a little bit more politely.
Because it's so... True Colors I liked quite a bit.
It was fine.
And then they kept coming out and they try to keep bringing back Max and keep bringing back the people from the first game that people really liked.
And now they're doing it again.
It's just...
I don't know what.
Anyway,
I don't know what they're. I get it.
And
And that's not just you. I do think that is going to come through in reviews as well. It's like, okay, what are we trying to do with this franchise right now? You know, and so I'm going with a 72 on this one. I think people will be happy if you're a longtime fan. You get more of the Max relationship, angle from the first game and just continuing where that left off. But I just think this franchise is due for a little bit of a, let's just say, an intermission, if that makes sense.
Yeah, just take a little break.
Yeah, I got 72. What are you doing?
I can't go lower than that. I had it at 72 as well, but I'm gonna go ahead and do 73.
Okay. All right, man. You came in hot with that one. You were sitting, man. That was from the soul. Let's move on to the next one here. Getting into some PlayStation titles for the next two. And we're gonna do Marvel Tokon Fighting Souls. A little out of my wheelhouse here, so I don't want to sit here and pretend to be fighting guru aficionado man. So all I can really do is just judge how I've seen it in the state of plays. Looks pretty fun. Looks like a good time. So I'm gonna go 86. I think it's gonna get reviewed well.
I'm gonna go 81.
81. All right.
A lot of people within the fighting community has said that this game looks cool. It has a lot of cool ideas, but there's a lot that needs to be worked on. But however, it feels like that they're pushing it out regardless, and they're going to fix it as it goes. And I think it's balancing wise. So I think that from the onset, it's not going to be reviewed like as good as people think it is. I think eventually the game will be great, but as it stands at launch, 81.
Yeah, to me, I factor that in too, but I figured, like, how many people reviewing this game are going to be from the fighting game community, like, are like really entrenched? I don't know. I think it's going to get stuck with some casual Marvel fans that are going to try it out and go, this is a cool game, 85 or something like that.
That's true.
That's why I went a little higher on this one. But let's stick with Marvel one more time. Let's talk about the next game, and that is Marvel's Wolverine, arguably Sony's biggest game of the year. I had a little tough time with this one too, because I think that the ceiling is really high for this game, but there's also this, like, I don't know if they got enough ideas to keep this feeling fresh compared to what they usually do. I'm going 86 here. What do you got?
I'm going 85. For whatever reason, the Spider-Man games always land 88, 86, around there. I just don't see Wolverine as being a better game than those Spider-Man games. It could be. It could be. But as it stands, I just don't see it. I still have to see what the game is. I still have to experience it to understand it. So right now where I'm at, that's where 85.
Yeah, I think that feels safe for now. And then I'd love to be wrong. I think it's got the potential to go as high as a 90 in my opinion. But I think some things might knock it down a few pegs, particularly maybe the writing and just what they do with just keeping things fresh throughout the duration of the game. I'm also curious to know how long the game's going to be. And maybe that could play a factor into this as well. But nevertheless, I think PlayStation's definitely got two solid Marvel titles on deck for this year by far. But let's go ahead and move on to the next game here, and that is a franchise that is near and dear to my heart, my favorite franchise in all of gaming, and that is Metal Gear Solid, because it is coming back with the Master Collection Volume 2. I'm going with an 83 here. What are you going to do?
I'm going to go 84. They're putting the work in with Metal Gear Solid 4. Yeah, I think that's going to be the standout for sure.
Yeah, and that's super special. I have my issues with MGS4, and we'll talk about it when the game comes back out, because I am curious to try it all these years later. With how I've evolved as a gamer and what has changed about me as a gamer. Maybe I'll have a different appreciation for the game. I think what hung me up though is more about just the lack of games in this collection, though. I think that was the thing. If they had done, like, you get MGS4, you get Peace Walker, you get Metal Gear Acid 1 and 2, and you get the Game Boy game Ghost Babel, like, then that'd be like a really dope package. But this feels a little anemic in ways that I didn't expect. So I think maybe the lack of just offerings in here will bring it down a little bit to an 83, but that's just me though. But maybe there's a volume 3 coming. I don't know. We'll see about volume 3. I don't know what they're going to do with that though.
What would that be?
I guess it'd be souped up MGS 5, and I don't really,
Anything else?
I don't know. I really don't. At that point, maybe the Twin Snakes, if they can find a way to get that out of Nintendo's death grip and say, hey, we're going to put this collection on the Switch, that'd be cool.
That would be amazing.
But I'd love to play that again too. That'd be really awesome. But that's just what I mean though. I feel like this volume 2 just came through to me as like, okay, they had the most important thing accounted for with Guns of the Patriots. That's great, but like where's everything else at? But something's better than nothing, and I'm just glad that the series is getting more shine in the modern era between this, Metal Gear Solid Delta from last year, which I thought was incredible. It's good to see the franchise has got some life in it. But up next we see a return of another beloved franchise that has been dormant for a long time. That's Onimusha with Onimusha Way of the Sword. What do you got on this one, man?
There's something iffy about this one.
Hold on now. What you mean?
The way Capcom shows off their games, they show with utmost confidence. This one, they do not. They seem to be kind of hiding it a little bit. It doesn't even have a release date, though. They've repeatedly said it's coming out in 2026. But I have seen the game. I've seen the trailers. It looks pretty dope. Let me just give you I'm going to go 83.
83. All right.
Yeah.
I feel that. I get what you're saying. There is something a little off with the game that I can't put a finger on, but I'm still interested in it a lot because I just trust Capcom enough to do right by this franchise if they're going to bring it back.
Right.
I'm also concerned, though, before I get to my score, I'm concerned, again, much like I talked about with Beast of Reincarnation, that it's just going to kind of blur together with all the other Japanese or Asian-inspired third-person action-adventure / and I don't want it to fade into kind of obscurity in that way because a lot of modern audiences have no fucking clue what Onimusha is, and they have no correlation with how awesome it is to see this franchise back. And so I can definitely see some reviewers going, it's great that it's here, but it's just kind of doing what we've seen other games do, honestly, as of late. So I think for that, I'm giving it, let me make sure I'm looking at the right score. I'm at 83, so I'm at the same score as you. I'll go 84, though.
I'll go 82. All right,
well, I'm staying at 84 then. I'm changing my mind because I'm also talking myself up because of Capcom being Capcom. So do you want to stay at 83 then?
No, I'll go to 82.
Okay, you're going down. I'm going up. All right, so a little real-time change there.
I feel like what you said is true. That's why. I feel like, especially with the next game we're about to talk about.
This is what I'm saying, dude.
Stuff.
We're getting oversaturated. The game we're talking about is the next one. That's Phantom Blade Zero. Yeah, I'm seeing too much of this now, and I love it because all these games in their own way look really dope. And I'm probably, if I had to rank all the ones I'm most excited for, Onimusha would absolutely be on top. There's just so much PlayStation nostalgia baked into that franchise for me that I associate it as like super integral to who I am as a PlayStation gamer these days. So the fact that it's back is it's mind blowing. But man, we're getting a lot of these, dude. And to your point,
it all feels the same.
Phantom Blade Zero is kind of along that same lines. Obviously not one for one, but enough of that same style that is all there. So to that point, I'm giving Phantom Blade Zero an 80. I think it's going to be good, but not going to be like the one that goes, this is the one that stands out from all the rest. I think it's going to fit right into everything else and just kind of swim in that 8 range. So
okay,
I got 80. What do you
got?
I
had it at 82, so I'm going to go 81.
Yeah, we were kind of close on these assessments here.
I'm a long-time non-believer of Phantom Blade Zero. I think it looks interesting as hell. I think what it is become really interesting, and it's made me a little bit of a fan of it. Though I do agree, I don't think it's going to be a standout game. I think it's going to be a game like, it's pretty cool, but that's about it. That's all we're going to get from that, especially this year.
No, I get it, 100%. But how are we feeling about the next game? We talked a lot about Capcom so far. They do have one other game coming out fairly soon, mid-April, and that is Pragmata. Had a demo come out recently, and probably one of my favorite demos I've ever played. Something about this was super addictive to me. So I personally, I know I'm going to love this thing. I know it. But if I'm thinking about the way it's going to get reviewed, something tells me it's going to be one of the lower rated games from Capcom, probably since Exoprimal, if you remember that one. I'm going 78 here. I feel like I think it's going to be underrated. I think it's going to be one of those games that's like, okay, it was way better than that. It's going to be one of those. Because I love what it's doing from a combat standpoint. I think it's really interesting stuff. But I don't know if reviewers are going to love what the rest of the game has to offer as much as I probably will. So
I've not seen a more quintessential 80s since the game with the lady with the boobs from a couple of years ago.
Stellar Blade?
Stellar Blade, yeah,
hey,
yeah.
Man,
yeah.
Don't talk about my girl like that, man. She's better
I like
than
that game. I love that game. I think Stellar Blade is awesome.
That girl's
but I think Pragmata's going to be awesome too. But I think that it is like that quintessential 80 game, you know?
I would take that. I would take an 80 for this game. I love what it's doing artistically. I think a lot of people initially kind of looked at it and went, okay, are you trying to be like a Death Stranding or something? Nah. It does have some parallels. I think the male characters, like astronaut suit, does look a little bit like the logo from Kojima Productions, that Luden's one or whatever it's called. Some of it's there, but I think it's really fun. I just don't think everyone's going to get it.
Yeah, if you play that game, I played that demo so much. I thought it was awesome.
Yeah, I'm day one.
It really stands out.
I already pre-ordered it and everything. I'm already there. Let's move on to the next game, though. Let's talk about the next game in the, I would say maybe underrated, A Plague Tale series, and that is Resonance: A Plague Tale Legacy. Don't know a whole lot about this game. I'm assuming we'll probably see it again at the Xbox Showcase in a couple months, potentially.
Yeah.
So we're kind of taking a shot in the dark here, I would say, for now.
Yeah.
But from what I did see of it, I just didn't get the same vibe I got from the first two games. So I'm going 77.
The series narratively is untouchable, so in good conscience, I can't give anything lower than an 82. Yeah, just because narratively, those games are so powerful and written so well, and the story's told so well, that I feel like if they're going to continue this series, that they're going to hang their hats on that specifically. So I still think we're in for a cool experience when it comes to the game narratively. So 82.
I hope so, man. I hope you're right, because I would love it to still have that Last of Us like really emotionally dark storytelling. Just don't know if it's that anymore with this new angle they're going with a prequel. But let's get into the next game here, and that is another one of PlayStation's exclusives coming out, and that is Seiros. Of course, I guess you can call it a spiritual successor to Returnal. I think we're going to talk about this more in a future episode around kind of maybe the lack of hype around this game right now. It doesn't feel like it's got a lot of people super excited. That might ramp up really significantly as we get closer to release, so I could be wrong here. But I factored that into my score a little bit, and I thought maybe people are less excited because it does feel very similar. So I still think it's going to be reviewed incredibly well, but maybe not that big jump from where Returnal was. So I'm going 89.
I got an 84.
That's interesting. Where are you coming from with that?
I think ultimately this game isn't as unique or special as Returnal because Returnal was first. You know, it did it first.
That's
true. Charles
is
just building and borrowing off of that. So I think that's why I have it at 84.
Yeah, a lot of people had Returnal as that lightning in a bottle moment for Housemarque where everything just kind of clicked. But I think the problem was it was almost too difficult for its own good, and not a lot of people finished the game. So I think it's going to review... I think the problem with the game being too familiar with Returnal will be kind of offset by the fact that it's going to be more accessible with new difficulty options and new ways to kind of actually upgrade your character and move forward and not feel like you're starting from square one all the time. I think that sense of progression, which is something that they're leaning into a lot with the marketing, come back stronger. I think that is going to help kind of even things out a little bit so that you can say, okay, if Returnal was too much for you, try this. If you liked everything about Returnal except how difficult it was, here you go. And if it's the answer to that, I think it will review fairly well. So that's why I had it at 89. But I definitely feel the fatigue thing as a real factor. So you might be right. It might go down lower than what I think, but we'll see, man. Up next, Silent Hill Townfall. I wasn't sure what to make of this game when it first got announced. I was like, is this a spinoff? Is this going to be taken as seriously as Silent Hill F was, as Silent Hill 2 Remake was? For all intents and purposes, it seems like Konami is really into it and really interested in expanding Silent Hill outside of Silent Hill. Obviously, they went to Japan with F, and now they're in, I believe it's Scotland, if I'm not mistaken. Nevertheless, another flavor of Silent Hills here, Pablo. What are you thinking, though?
I don't see it. I look at this game and I go, I don't know. I'm going to go with 78.
We got the same score. Now, I'm really excited to play it. I think it's going to be really cool. It reminds me a little bit of like Silent Hill meets Alien Isolation meets Condemned, Criminal Origins. For people who remember that one, old heads like me. Really interesting blend, but I don't know if the first-person gameplay looked really cool. And I also don't know if it's going to be a super long game. It's $50. So that could imply that it's like a really short, maybe 5-6 hour experience or something like that. And not to say that's a bad thing. I don't have any sort of prejudice against short games. In fact, I think I like the idea of having more of those, to be honest. There's just something a little bit, I'm not sold yet. And maybe by the time I see it again, I will be like, okay, you got me. But I'm going to get it day one no matter what. But 78, it makes sense to me too. I'll go up because I'm a Silent Hill fan. I'll give it that extra 1 point because one of the most important franchises in all of gaming for me, so I'll go 79. But I'm with you. It just
doesn't feel like a game, like a mainline game, or a game that's being treated as such.
Yeah.
It feels like a spin-off, and when we talk about spin-offs, then you get really bad Silent Hill experiences. But we'll see. I hope I'm wrong.
Yeah, but, Konami has been doing their thing, so
yeah,
it's hard for me to root against them now because they are really taking They're taking the reins back from, I think, what happened while they've been away doing pachinko shit, which is they're like, okay, you're doing Bloodstained, we're bringing back Castlevania. Okay, you're doing this, we're doing that. And, I think they definitely saw Resident Evil and they're like, no, we can do some things with what we have with Silent Hill. And I love the fact that they're being aggressive in that way again. And...
But they are only a year and a half removed from Silent Hill: The Short Message.
Yeah, that's true, but I don't believe that game really existed. That was a dream. But yeah, that was a nightmare. Actually, that was a terrible thing. I don't know what they were thinking. That really worried me about like the Silent Hill 2 remake specifically. Yeah. I'm like, if you can't get like an hour-long game right, what are you doing making Silent Hill 2 again? But they have proven me wrong, dude. They've proven me wrong. Yeah. So I'm ready. I'm ready to love this game, but I just need to see a little bit more. That's all I need. Let's move on, though. Let's get to the next game on our list. We have 4 more left here. We have Star Wars Galactic Racer, Pablo. A lot of burnout in this thing. A lot of burnout.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
And a lot of people are like, hey, you know what? Not for nothing. Looks really good. Looks really, really good. Like visually looks good. The gameplay looks fun.
Yeah.
So a lot of people consider it kind of one of those dark horse games that can kind of creep up and get some solid reviews. But where do you land on it, though? What's your number?
I agree with those people. That's why I have it at 84.
Wow, you going high?
Yeah. I mean, look, it's a licensed game, right? It has that going for it. And the fact that the people behind it are loved. It looks good, and people have been wanting a really good galactic racer game or a pod racer game. It's not a pod racing game, but it has pod racing in it. People have wanted this for a long time, and I think people will show up, and I think, yeah,
that's true. 84. Yeah, I mean, the potential's there, man. It could really be great. I'm going 72, man. Watch out.
Whoa, 72.
Watch out. I'm not buying it, man. I'm not buying it. You know what it reminds me of? It reminds me of that fucking Star Wars, what was it, Rogue Squadron comeback that they did a couple years ago.
Yeah, that game.
It was that short, cheap $50 game, and everyone was like, oh, man, it's nostalgia. It's back. This is out of the same playbook to me. And I feel like it's going to be the same result. It's going to be cool to play for like 30 minutes. It's not going to have a lot of features going for it. It's not going to have much to offer outside of a couple races. People are going to get bored of it quickly, and it's just going to be that thing, you know? So I'm sure it's going to be solid. It's going to have good polish, possible. But yeah, man, nah. I can't. I just can't in good faith say I've seen EA do games like this justice. I just don't see them doing stuff like this justice. They don't. It's going to be fine, but forgettable, I would say. And some people are going to swear by it. And you might be one of them. I know you're probably going to try it out at some point because you're into this. But
I think, for me, it's potential. It has the potential to be something really interesting and cool and be the thing that people wanted it to be. But what you said is absolutely possible, like 100%. You know?
Well, and just looking at it critically, like I think reviewers are going to not have a lot to chew on with this game. They're going to go, the mechanics are cool, the presentation's there, it's very Star Wars-y, the pod racing feels good. The end, you know, like that's my concern with the reviews. Is like they're not going to have much else to latch onto, and then it's just going to be that game that's kind of fine, and that's about it.
Is this a full price game?
I don't know. That's the other thing too. I feel like it shouldn't be, personally. If this can't come out at $70.
If it's not a full price game, then I think reviewers will let that pass. But if it's a $70 game,
it better be
at
50.
that point, yeah.
50 would be more sensible in my opinion.
$29.99 it looks like.
Oh, $29.99. Yeah, this ain't gonna have no damn modes or features, bro. This is doing laps with
at
a pod.
But that's the thing. At $30, people are gonna be like, "Oh, it's a pretty good game for $30." You know what I'm saying?
Nah, watch out. 72, man. Let's get into the next game here. The Blood of Dawnwalker. A lot of makers of The Witcher 3 are here working on this game. I've seen a lot of people go in many directions about how this game is shaping up. Some people think that it looks really good. It's got a lot of The Witcher's DNA in it, plus some new elements that are making it more of its own thing. And I've also seen the other side where people are like, this looks like UE5 AA nonsense, and it's just not going to be anywhere close to what The Witcher actually is, and it's just going to be kind of a Temu version of The Witcher.
Yeah.
So where do you think the critics and the reviewers are going to go with this game, though?
I have it at 81. I think people are praising it for a lot of the mechanics. I think people like the story, even the gameplay maybe. But I think ultimately it's just going to be one of those games where the comparisons are going to have to be there, and people are going to compare it to The Witcher because it is already being compared to The Witcher, and it's just not going to live up to that expectation, not even close.
Yeah, and that's why I have it at 73. You're trying to sell me on something from the past, and in this case, it's remember we made The Witcher 3, and I do remember that, but it's 2026 now, and what I've seen of this game leaves me with a lot more concerns than confidence. And I wonder if they're going to be able to iron out a lot of the stuff that I'm seeing in time for the launch, because the combat still hasn't sold me yet. The overall look of the game hasn't sold me yet at all. And most importantly, the lead character looks very bland to me. He is not an interesting looking guy. If you're going to leave CD Projekt Red, do your own thing and make a Witcher equivalent, I'm expecting a character that is of or near the same quality as a Geralt is, because I've seen what you can do with a character like that. And everything I've seen of this guy is just not interesting. So I'm worried about this game just kind of falling flat.
We already know when it comes from the makers of so-and-so game, it means less and less these days, unfortunately.
Yeah, it does. It does. But pulling for this one, if this would be a great dark horse game that could very well surprise me. I hope it's more along the lines of your prediction than mine, but
I hope it's higher. Yeah,
I don't know. We'll see. 2 games left here on our list, man. Let's get to the next one. Another big comeback, and this is of course Tomb Raider: Legacy of Atlantis. This is more of a remake / reimagining of the first game, this is one for the old heads for sure. Where do you land on this? I've always wondered like how important Tomb Raider is to you personally. What this kind of game means to you specifically before we get into the critical stuff.
Yeah, it's always been a series that's been part of my life. But I would admit that I think for me, it's the newer games that have resonated more with me. You know, Tomb Raider,
the new trilogy,
Rise of Tomb Raider, Shadow of Tomb Raider. Those are the games that resonated with me the most. So because I have that newfound love for the series, I'm very excited to go back to Legacy of Atlantis and see exactly what this is. So based on everything I saw, I'm at 85. I'm super excited for this.
Really?
And I think people are going to resonate with this game for sure.
That's dope. Yeah, I'm at an 82. I feel good about this one also. I think it might not be everything that people wanted out of kind of bringing back the classic game, because people do hold that one really near and dear. And I think that in some ways people will say, you'll see those reviews out there that'll be like, this stripped away the essence of Tomb Raider in some kind of way. I don't know if I'm going to agree with those kind of takes, because I think Tomb Raider does definitely need a little bit of love, kind of keeping it relevant. But I do think it's going to be really good. I loved the trailer. I thought it looked incredible. I'm always rooting for Tomb Raider to succeed, even if some of the games don't do it for me personally. But I'm definitely ready to kind of lock back in the franchise again, because there were some games in the trilogy, the new trilogy, that didn't do it for me. And ironically, the one that I liked the most was the one that people liked the least, which was Shadow of the Tomb Raider. I thought that was an incredible game.
I think with time, people have changed their minds on that. Shadow of the Tomb Raider is amazing.
Yeah, and that's why I think, like, in my opinion, people are kind of like down a little bit on like the potential of like the new run of Tomb Raider games. I'm high on it because I felt like they ended that trilogy on a really good note. So I'm very hopeful that's going to be a great game. Now, last game on our list. Zero Parades for Dead Spies from the makers of Disco Elysium, although the makers is saying it very loosely because there was a lot of studio drama, a lot of people bailed, there was lawsuits, all kinds of stuff going on with all that, so who knows who's who in that studio anymore. But it's their game, it's coming out soon, and what say you, man?
Very hard for me to predict here. I had it as high as 90 at one point, but I'm kind of just going to settle in on 88. I think that a lot of the studio drama stuff is unfortunately going to bleed into the Kotaku and the Polygons of the world. And I think eventually that this game also might suffer just a little from not having everybody, the whole talent pool there ready to, make the next great RPG that they're known to make. So I'm excited for this though, but 88 is where I'm at.
Yeah, I'm actually not too far away from you though. I'm at 86. I don't think that it's going to be another Disco Elysium in terms of that, like, this is one of the best games you can buy if you're into this type of genre type of moment. But everything that I've seen from the trailers looks really, really cool. And actually, it has me more excited than I was coming into Disco Elysium. I really like the art style. I think it looks incredible. I think the premise of the game speaks more to my interests than Disco Elysium did, which always got... And maybe this game's going to do the same thing too, where it couldn't decide whether it wanted to be wacky and weird or straight. And maybe that is, to an extent, their signature style of storytelling and writing.
Yeah.
I just kind of struggled with how to approach the choices I had to make in Disco Elysium because of that. And so I'm wondering if they're a little bit more willing to hone in on the tone and be a little bit more focused in that way, or if they want to kind of keep it silly when you want to be silly and serious when you want to be serious. I imagine it's probably more of the latter, if I'm being honest, and that's okay with me. It just means that I'll play the game in a different way than most people will. But I love the fact that it's probably going to have that flexibility for us.
Exactly.
Too,
it's going to have that option. Yeah.
So I'm thinking 86 here. Going to be really interesting to see how this all pans out, man. We're going to obviously update our little docket here with all the reviews as they come in. The next one is Crimson Desert. Definitely one to watch out for. But yeah, man, really interesting year to come. A lot of stuff is going to start kicking into gear now. The first quarter of 2026 was pretty dry, but as we see here, business is definitely picking up. Lots to look forward to, though, man. But I think that is going to do it for our very special episode of MetaCritic Predictions. So that is going to do it here. But before we close this case file away, please be sure to follow our show to catch new episodes every Tuesday. But until next time, stay safe, save often, and play on. See you next week.
Peace out.